Okay, so we read the question. We have a camping tent. We have to draw the plan, which is given to us. The spectator is 70 millimeters from corner A being here, which is this one here. Again, always try to label any views that you are given. Match them up so that visualization is minimized and the difficulty level is eased. The picture plane is touching corner A and the horizon line is 30 millimeters above the ground, meaning that our spectator is 30 millimeters in height. So I'm going to take this plan view, and the way I always do it, you could draw it that way if you wished, but I like to turn my image first because it's easier to draw for me. Draw it in the top right hand corner. If you want to draw slightly differently, or you found, a video on YouTube that you find easier to follow, or that technique, by all means please do it, as long as it is correct. That's all that really matters, okay? So, I'm going to start off with drawing my plan view. My measurements are all in millimeters, and the scale is 1:1, so I don't need to worry about scaling anything back, which is nice and handy for me. And again, I do always advise using coloured pens or pencils where possible, especially with this topic. It can be very, very useful. Okay. So we have our plan view drawn there. There are 3 heights involved in this question. There is 15, 50, and 65. Okay. 15, 50, and 65. We don't need them just yet, but it's just good to note that there are 3 heights involved. Now, the spectator again is at an angle of 120 degrees to corner A, which means that's a 60-degree angle to horizontal. And the question has told us that the spectator is 70 millimeters away from that corner. And again, labels are always important, so use them. So I've labelled spectator S and I've labelled corner A. Now what I'm going to do is I want to take a picture of that tent. So in order to do that, I'm going to draw to the camera lens from the furthest point on the left of the spectator, furthest point on the right, the eye of the spectator. I'm then going to bisect that angle because I want to fit that image in the middle of my screen. So if that's the furthest point on the left, that's the furthest point on the right, I want half of that to be able to point my camera in that direction in order to fit it on my camera screen or my whatever phone or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to use a bisection here, bisecting an angle method. And once we have that, we'll join the two of them up. Now sometimes at ordinary level they can give you the center line of vision or the angle of the picture plane, but in this one they have not.
Wait, could you show me where you put the compass?
So bisect the angle. I want to bisect the angle between the first point on the left, first point on the right. So we swing an arc here, and then we put the compass again on point 1. Swing a second arc, put it on point 2. Swing a third arc, and where the two of them meet, I join it back to there, and that's my bisect. Okay.
From point A to point S, the angle is 60 degrees, yeah?
60 degrees. In total it's 120. But because I've because I drew this horizontal, that means that that's 60 degrees. So that angle there is 120 in total. Does that make sense? Yep.
So I left my compass at home.
Let me see, just if I have another. So. Disinfectant maybe beforehand, okay? Right, so that is pretty much almost my setup. I just need to find the picture plane now running across here. And the picture plane is always, and the screen of your phone is a perfect example. No matter what direction you point the camera, the screen of your phone is always 90 degrees to that camera lens. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so this is the sheet of glass. And we draw this in orange. So the sheet of glass is the picture plane. The two of them must be at 90 degrees to each other, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Picture plane, picture plane. Again, labeling takes all of probably 20 seconds in total across the whole drawing. So it's important that it's done. Now, I'm going to find my vanishing point. Okay, so this line here is vertical. Vertical, 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 vertical. These are all parallel to each other. My vanishing point is going to also be vertical. Okay, so that is also vertical. That is giving me VPL. These lines are then horizontal. So that means from the eye of the spectator, I will go horizontally. VPR, giving me my two vanishing points. At this stage then what I'm going to do is I'm finished with my plan view. I'm going to untape the sheet. I'm going to spin it around so that I can get my picture plane in a horizontal position, and then I can retape it down. Okay, so my picture plane is in a horizontal position. The next thing that I'm going to draw is my horizon line and my ground line. Now I'm just going to refer to the question. It says that the horizon line is 30 millimeters above the ground line. And the object is a total of 65 in height. That's the highest point of the object. So that means that some of it is going to be above the eye line of the spectator. So I want to avoid that area, that cluster around the spectator, because there's going to be a lot of work there. So I'm going to drop down at least 35 millimeters, because that's the difference in my object height and my spectator. So this is going to be the horizon line, and 30 millimeters below that is the ground line. And again, GL, HL really don't take that long to label. Okay. The other thing that I advise you do, and at this stage, well, I'm not just finished my setup at this stage, so I'm going to finish my setup and then I'm going to show you what to do. So I'm going to bring down the vanishing point on the right to the eye line of the spectator as usual. Bring that down to there. That is VPR. Bring down this one. That gives me VPL. And I'm also going to bring down what we call the reference height line, which is the true measurement. Because it's up against a sheet of glass, that is where all true measurements are measured from. Okay? So just put a little arrow to this, and that is my reference height line. You can call it a measuring line either if you want. It's basically just the true length, or the true heights are going to be up against that sheet of glass at that point. And as they get further away from the sheet of glass, they'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, what I'm going to do in setup to this is I'm going to label my points. So in the plan view, this is corner A. I'm going to go clockwise. This is going to be corner B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. So there's my points there. I then move to my 3D, and I need to match them up as well. So this is going to be A and A. There's going to be 2 points for that. B and B, 2 points for that. 2 heights, ground and up 15. This is going to be E. This is going to be F. I can't see point C, so I don't need to label it. D and D. Then I have G and G, H and H. Okay, so my 3D is matching my plan. I've labeled my plan first, then my 3D, and that's going to help me in getting my perspective here. Alright, and again, I'm going to then transfer those labels to my drawing. So I have B, E, C, F, D, G, and H. And I might need these 2 points here as well, so I'm just going to go I and J. I and J, and again I and J, making sure that my 3D matches my plan view, which matches the plan view here. And that's going to help me solve it.
Sir, I'm not sure where I want to.
So this line needs to be 90 degrees to that line, is that right? Yeah? That line there? Is that 90 degrees to that line? No? They need to be 90 degrees to each other because the screen of your phone is 90 degrees to the direction you're pointing the camera.
So do I have to change that?
Yeah, this line has to be the same as, or has to be 90 degrees to that line. You have it 90 degrees to this line, I think. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, I'm going to start solving this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do where the tent hits the floor. So I'm going to do the floor layout basically first. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? Okay? So, I'm going to then take my pencil. I'm going to take the bottom of corner A. We'll run along the ground until it disappears as far as I can see. The bottom of corner A. We'll run along the ground as far as the eye can see and disappear at VPO. Now, to find the location of the stopping point of these tents, so that's as far as the eye can see, and obviously the tent isn't that big. So what I'm going to do is I bring corner B to the eye of the spectator. Where it hits the picture plane, I bring it straight down. That's the image that we're capturing. We're capturing the image on this sheet of glass. If the sheet of glass was in a different location, we'd get a different image. So, just to identify this is corner A, and this is the ground point here from A to D, and this is the ground point here from A to B. So I have the 3 points A, B, and D. Oren, why am I not doing C? Why am I not finding C down here? So for example, why don't I have C labelled in the 3D? I have it labelled here, but why don't I have it labelled there? And why am I not going to bother finding it here? Because you can't see it, exactly. And I'm not going to need it really for later on in the question, so I'll do it anyway just in case, alright? I don't really need it, and this is just for the purpose of doing it, but this is wasting probably 10-15 seconds that I could be spending on another point. So there's point C along the ground. Okay? Now, on my reference height line, I'm going to measure in my 3 heights. Height 15, height 50, height 65. So on that reference height line, I will measure in my 3 heights. So we have 15, 50, and 65. Now remember, those are the 3 heights that if they were here at corner A touching the sheet of glass, which is my picture plane, if they were touching the sheet of glass, they would be the real measurements. However, they get further away from the sheet of glass, so therefore they look smaller. For example, B here, we have the ground point, we need to go up 15. If it was touching the sheet of glass here, it would be exactly 15, but it walks away from me, so therefore it looks smaller. So what does it look like as it is arriving at this point? So what I do is that height of 15, I bring it to VPL, and as it crosses the B line, it gives me the height of B, what it looks like when it's walked further away from me. The same thing on the right hand side here. I want to find the height of D. So D is 15 as well. It would be really 15 if it was up against a sheet of glass. However, it's walked away from me, so it looks a little bit smaller. And that's the height now that it looks like. So I now have 2 more lines completed on my perspective drawing. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find E and F. Okay, and again, if I wanted to find the height of C, because A, B, C and D are all on the ground, but they're also at the height of 15. So what I could do is I could bring the height of 15 back to VPL, the height of 15 from B back to VPR, and where the 2 of them cross is going to give me my 2 C points. Okay, the ground and the 115 up in the air. Now what I'm going to do is the height of 65. E and F are 65 above the ground. If you look here at the 3D, E is 65 above the ground, F is 65 above the ground. I'm going to find those 2 points now. So I take my height of 65 on this reference height line. If it was up against corner A, imagine this little lid is a person. They're 65 in height, standing right up against a sheet of glass. They're going to measure their exact same height. Now, that person has walked away from you and stopped there, but they're still 65 in height. But they look a little bit smaller because they're not up against a sheet of glass anymore. So we need to represent that. So from A to E is parallel to VPL. So therefore, I'm going to bring the height of 65, which is up against a sheet of glass, back towards VPL. Somewhere on this line is going to be, E is going to intersect it. So we bring E to the eye of the spectator. Where does that hit our image? This sheet of glass, remember, is capturing the image. So we bring E down. Wherever it crosses that 65 height line, that is the location of E. So I can now join A to E and E to B, giving me the gable end of the tent. Okay, and again, if I wanted to just picture this a little bit better, what I could do is, this could be my red gable end here. I now have my red gable end there. Again, the colours all help with visualization. They're not to make it look good, they're just to help visualize it and make it stand out and show the examiner, or whoever's correcting it, that you understand this fully. Okay? Now, to get F, if we notice up here in plan view, E towards F has 2 lines on it, which means it's parallel to, I didn't draw it in here, but it's parallel to VPR. EF is parallel to VPR, so if I have found E and I need to find F, I will travel along the VPR, so I bring E to VPR, and F has to be somewhere along that line. So E travels along to VPR until it disappears. F has to be somewhere on this line. How do I find out where that is? I bring F to the eye of the spectator. Wherever it hits the picture plane, which is capturing this image, remember, that's where we're putting the image on. It's like an artist's canvas, or the screen of a phone or whatever projector. F comes down there, and that is the location of F. So I can now bring D to F, E across to F here, and in theory I could bring F, I'm going to do this in pencil so that it doesn't stand out because it is hidden, F to C. And again, C to C would be in theory, because I can't actually see it. Okay? So I have the main body of my tent complete. The only part that I am missing now is the window. Is that little window. Okay? I'm going to cover the top surface of it here in blue. Okay? The top surface of that is in blue, and the top surface of this is also in blue. Okay? The other bit that I'm going to do is the bottom line of this here. I'm going to colour in green just to identify it. We don't know what height that is. We know the top height of this window is 50, so we can find that pretty easily. But the bottom height we don't know. So that green line there, I'm just going to draw here because it's the bottom height of G and H, which we don't know. So I'm going to find the top height first. Okay, so it'll be almost like the roof of the window, if you want. So it's a second roof, okay? And then I'm going to have to show you how to find the bottom line. So the bottom line is actually quite easy, but we find the top line of G and H, which is even easier. So I have my height of 50 here. Okay, so you can imagine, again, we'll just use this little pen lid. You can imagine the height of 50 is here at A. We need it to be there at G. Okay, and I can only walk in straight lines of either this direction or this direction. It's like a little bit of Pac-Man or whatever else. So if I'm standing there, I need to land on G. How do I do it? Well, what I would do is I can go to E, to I, to G. Or I could go from A, if I number this point that I have here, number 1, I could go from A to 1 to G. Do you understand? You still end up in the same location. One route is just longer than the other. So you have to try and picture this as like a labyrinth, or you ever see one of those garden mazes, or like Pac-Man. You can only move this direction or this direction. Okay, so if I want to get to G to find my height, I need to either go to 1 to G, or from A to E to I to G. Either way, it's up to you, as long as you understand what you're doing. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take my height of 50, which is here, and I'm going to bring it to point 1. So what I've done here is I've extended GH. I've drawn a line here of GH till it hits point 1 is on the line AE, and point 2 is on the line DF. And remember, what you do in one view, you must do in the other. So if 1 is on the line AE here, well then it must be on the line AE down here. So what I'm going to do is, remember the height of 50, I've started here, I'm going to stop at 1 and work my way that way. So A to 1 is parallel to VPL. So I'm going to go from A back towards VPL. I'm going to take this point of 1, bring it to the eye of the spectator. The image is captured on the picture plane, so that's what I need to bring down. Bring that down. And wherever it hits that height of 50, that's my height of 1. I then bring that this way. I'm walking from A to 1, I stopped, and then I'm going to go that way to find G and H. So I'm going to bring that to VPR. And this is the line that G and H have to be on. They must be contained on this line here. So on that line, how do I find where they are? I do the exact same thing. I bring G to the eye of the spectator. Okay. Where is it being captured? Well, it's being captured on the picture plane here. So I bring G down. Try not to break my pencil while I'm at it. I bring G down, and wherever it crosses that line, that has to be G. I'll do the same thing for H. I bring H to the eye of the spectator. Wherever that hits the picture plane, which is capturing the image, remember, we bring it down, and that has to be the point of H. I and J are on the line EF, so all I have to do is the same thing again, bring I to the eye of the spectator. Wherever it hits the picture plane, bring it straight down. That gives me this point here, which is I. I can now join I to G. See that line there? I to G. I have that line drawn there. So I to G is here. I to G is there. I need J to H. So let's find J. I bring J to the eye of the spectator. Wherever it hits the picture plane, I bring it straight down. Wherever it crosses the line EF, gives me its location. That is point J. I can join J to H. And again, that there is my blue surface that I coloured in earlier on. That is the roof of it. That makes sense? Now, the problem then is this line here. How do I find that? Well, what I need to do is, it's at a certain height. And it's at a certain height, and 1 is at the same height. And 2 is at the same height. So what I can do is, I can bring 1 across, and wherever that crosses the sloped line of AE, which is here, if I bring back that point back to VPR, I will find the correct height of the bottom of G and H. That's the line I'm trying to find. If I continue that line on, so if I do this in pen here, if I continue that line on and hit AE here, that is point 1 on the line AE. If I do the exact same activity down here, I'll find point 1. I can then bring that back to the VPR, and that will find me the bottom of G and H. So, I've continued this line on here. 1 is on the line AE, the sloped line AE. AE is here. I bring 1 to the eye of the spectator, which I've already done. Where it hits the picture plane here, I bring it straight down, and wherever it crosses the line AE gives me the exact location of point 1. I'm going to bring point 1 to my VPR, and this is the hardest thing in this question is getting the bottom of that window. But again, the principles that we're using are nothing new. They're the same principles as we've been using before. And I'm just going to draw this in green because that's the green line that I drawn up here. That green line is that green line there, essentially. It's a portion of it. And then all I have to do is bring G down to hit that line, and that's the stopping point of that. Bring H down to the stopping point and fill in the details of the rest. And that is my question solved. I'm just going to read it to double check. And that's that. And that's my green line there. Okay? So, I hope that helps. I will post that video up